Good evening. I'd like to call the Town of Rome Board meeting for Thursday, June 17th to order, 5 o'clock. Number 2, roll call starting from my left.
Wiesinger here.
Minter here.
Hasdell here.
Coleman here.
Barheit here.
Thank you. Number 3, certify posting of the meeting, please.
I certify that on Friday, June 11th, 2021, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board meeting for Thursday, June 17th, 2021 was emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 2:20 p.m., posted at Rome Town Hall at 2:05 p.m., at Pritzel's Trading Post at 2:40 p.m., and at Nakusa Port Edward State Bank at 2:35 p.m.
Thank you. Number 4, approve the agenda, and we've had a request to move 21 to 9. We'll call it 9B. Somebody make a motion on that, or any discussion after the motion?
Motion to approve the agenda with one change for the number 21 and after number 9.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried. Number 5, Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 6, citizen comments. We haven't received any. Did you receive any comments?
No, I did not.
Okay, so we will dispense with number 6 reading. Number 7, information updates, meeting recaps, recent correspondence, current events, and announcements. Jerry, start please.
Saturday, this coming Saturday, June 19th, we'll have the annual Classic Car Show, Bike and Snowmobile Show at Town Center Park, put on by the Rome Snow Bandits, with hopefully going to have beautiful weather, so we'll have beautiful cars, and a lot of them usually. There's a lot of activities going on for the kids. There's face painting, and fire department's kids' fun house will be there. Playground, splash pad right across the street for the kids. So come on down, enjoy some of the food, refreshments, and good music. That's all.
Thank you. Dan?
Library board last week met, and the library staff is really excited to have the summer reading program up and going, and they've had a lot of interest from the kids in the area to participate in it, and so they're looking forward to it and having their Saturday programs. I think it's this weekend that the alpaca is going to be at the library. Jelly Bean the alpaca. So they could go to the car show and then they can come see the alpaca, or vice versa. Lots of stuff going on Saturday.
Car show is on from 9 till 3, so yes.
I don't know how long the alpaca's there.
I think they're still looking for some volunteers at the car show.
No, we're pretty
We're
well
good?
staffed.
Okay, good. I have nothing today.
Just to note that Saturday is also Lake Camelot Property Owners Association annual meeting at 9 a.m. So all members are encouraged to attend, and then after that, go to the car show and see the alpacas.
Thank you.
I have nothing.
Thank you.
Chairman, I have 2 items, if I may.
Sure.
This weekend also, Friday afternoon and Saturday until noon, is the open house here in the community room for anyone that would be along the natural gas line expansion here in town. We Energies will have representatives here in case people that would be along that gas line expansion would have questions about what it would mean. And our other piece is we did receive notice this week that the dumpsters that we ordered for the transfer site will start to be delivered next week. It's going to take them probably over a course of a week in order to get all of the dumpsters here and on site. After that, Adams County needs some time to move their equipment out of the transfer site, and we'd like to do some cleanup, and we'd like to lay down a new pad underneath the dumpsters. It'll be a gravel and road-based pad underneath there, but because of that transition in dumpsters, we are looking to actually close the transfer site on Wednesday, July 14th, after the 4th of July holiday, so we could have a full week in order to have Adams County transition out, us clean up and put down that new base, and then organize the new dumpsters in the site. So we'll advertise that date, but I just wanted to give you an update on when the dumpsters would be here and what the plan was once they arrived.
Wednesday, July what?
14th.
Thank you. Number 8, department and committee reports.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Parks and Rec, we had Public Works fertilize the grass over there at the Center Park. So the grass is coming along, and hopefully we can get it mowed pretty soon and cut the weeds down that are coming up and get rid of them. We're continuing our fundraising activities. We will have a sign erected near the splash pad that will show our goal and our progress towards that goal, as well as we'll be sending out letters to each of the businesses in the town of Rome asking for their participation.
Any particular order? Did you want to run through these?
Only if there were questions on other reports that were in the packet.
Anybody have any other questions on departments? Discuss and possible action on the following items. Number 9, discussion and possible action approval of the June 3rd, 2021 meeting minutes.
Motion to approve as presented.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. 9B, discussion and possible action recommendation from Alcohol Beverage License Review Committee regarding application for Class B beer license for the period of July 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021, received from the Wisconsin Trap Shooting Association. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion
I'll
to
move.
approve the recommendation, the Alcohol Beverage License Review Committee to grant a Class B liquor license to Trap Shooters Association.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 10, discussion and possible action, checks, vouchers, receipts, and journal entries. Approved checks number 43019 to 43113, totaling $1,028,030.80. Auto payments totaling $59,340.93. State Social Security, Medicare withholdings totaling $34,676.25. Payroll vouchers V17104 to V17240, totaling $87,046.67, and checks numbers 21623 to 21624, totaling $622.53. Receipts number 22025 to 22163, totaling $137,630.43. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the checks, vouchers, receipts, and journal entries as printed.
Second.
Any discussion? I had one question that was on showing page 16. Nakusa ambulance service for $44,160. It says the term. What's the term of that? Is that annual or?
I believe that's your annual payment, yes.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Number 11, discussion and possible action, results of ranking top areas of opportunity shared by each supervisor at the May 6th Town Board meeting. Jamie, would you like to discuss?
So there was a memo included in the packet that just showed what those rankings were from the supervisors, and I'm just adding it so you had what the items were that everybody also shared as their top priorities. Clearly, maintenance of town roads and improvements to infrastructure, that was everyone's top issue. So I think that's a clear outlier. The other ones that tied for second place, each with 2 votes, was the brush and dead timber, and an annual pickup across the town, and the comprehensive plan update, and then tied for third, each with 1 vote. So I think if the board wants to discuss, if there's something else you'd like to do with this information, if you want to keep this information as we move through the budget process, next month we'll I'll put forward the annual memo where if there are priorities that we wanna address in the budget, we have that discussion, with the department heads as we prepare that first draft of the budget that would come through the town board, through our special budget meetings. We usually have about 4 special budget meetings.
Thoughts?
No, I think we just need to keep that in mind when we start the budget. Gotta put some money in town roads, find money for their town roads especially.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I thought too, maybe we make an agenda item a couple weeks from now, shorten it down the road, bring Brad in, and let's just have a discussion overall on the roads, everything we're looking at, total conditions, redos. He mentioned he's got funds for 3.1 miles, I believe. He needs funds for 5, so we don't get behind. We gotta discuss that. Plowing costs and all that good stuff. So I think just bring it out so we can really discuss, we all get a good handle on it, see what's going on. So I think maybe make an agenda item down the road, not before the budget process starts. And then same thing with the brush ordinance. I think that's gonna take care of itself when the committee, the task force gets going and comes back with some recommendations. So I think we can jump on that as soon as they get done with that. Then it'll be time to start looking at the next one, so.
Yeah, and I think so department heads do the first draft of budget, and so I think knowing this information, knowing that top priority, we can address that within highway budget, and then we could have that at one of those first special meetings, just so you could have a more in-depth conversation, so it wasn't part of a regular board meeting, you could focus on that public works piece.
Yeah, Brad was the only one that had an item on a wish list. Nobody else had any wish list items?
I didn't assemble all of their wish lists yet, I will do that.
Within
send it
reason,
out.
top item.
Yeah, we can take care of that through budget process too.
Okay. I don't think we need to do any action on that then. Just move forward.
So as far as the items that tied for 3, obviously there's support for clean water, both surface and groundwater, so we're supporting the efforts of Tri-Lakes and 14-mile watershed as much as we can.
That's gonna be another discussion, I think, down the road of how do we do it, you know, rather than say, yeah, we're behind them. Okay, now what? So I think that's gonna take some conversation.
And I think there's also the conversation of what is support, right? Is support only money? Because I have very good contact with 14 Mile and with Karen and with helping with State of the Lakes luncheon, and we attend Tri-Lakes. Like, is support more than just money?
Yeah, and again, there's other opportunities we're finding coming down the road. This is at Tri-Lakes. Just got a notice today that there's funding for replacing engines. If we replace a diesel engine with a clean diesel, we'll get some funding for that. A new grant came out, so there are more opportunities coming up, and I think you had something coming up too. I don't know if you got that coming up here later though, right?
Funding opportunities for, that's with the Rescue Plan Act, yes.
Yeah. So there's other opportunities up there, so again, use that for exploratory. What else can we do? Other funding opportunities, so, yep, that'll be on the, not going off the radar, it'll be on there.
Formulating the strategy, I guess, is what we'll do, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm not clear, cooperating with other local agencies and governments, what does that mean?
I don't want to speak for the person that voted for it, but I think it was just to always keep in mind that if there's opportunities to partner, that we should be partnering with other agencies or governments in order to provide services or improve services.
Is that relative to the fire district?
No, it did not come in terms of relative to fire district.
Basically a rapport going with the other towns, areas.
Just to add to that, that could be anything from law enforcement services agreements that we have with other municipalities to extension of water and sewer line into or sanitary sewer, into the town. It can be a number of things, and I think just recognizing that municipalities are often open to having those conversations and keeping those relationships there is important.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that I can support it, because it sounds good, but if there's something specific somebody was thinking of.
Another good example from this week is the town of Saratoga needed public works help, and so we had an employee go up there and help this week, and then we will charge them for equipment time and for that personnel time, but it helps them because they get somebody that has expertise in that, and they don't have staff of their own, and we were able to share for this week.
Yeah. Okay. Rome Water's done it in the past too. They've helped other people with various things, so.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else?
Yeah, those are usually two-way streets.
Yeah.
We help them, and when we need some help, we know we can call on them. If they're able, they will help us in return.
Okay, number 12, discussion and possible action, update on future ambulance service considerations, including request for proposals, creation of an ambulance service, and update on current services agreement.
So just taking those 3 items, one at a time, there was a memo included in the packet. To start with the request for proposal, after the last board meeting when it was approved, it was released on June 8th. It's available off of the town's website posting boards. It was put twice as a legal notice in the paper. And I included in your memo that right now there are 3 proposal holders. They're Lifestar EMS, Nakusa Ambulance Service, and United Ambulance Emergency Response. I also got an additional request since the printing of this memo, and that was for Metro Paramedic Services. So again, the deadline for that to be returned back, that RFP to be returned back, is July 22nd. And the Ambulance Services Subcommittee will open those requests for proposals on July 26th at their meeting, at their next scheduled meeting. So then the Ambulance Services Subcommittee met this Monday, the 14th, and this document was shared, which I gave you all a paper copy of. This was a continuation of the conversation about what the cost would be for creation of an ambulance service. The committee really wanted to see what it would mean if it was on-call staff or if it was full-time staff, if we had hired full-time staff. So the first page, you'll see the income and then expenses if no full-time staff, and on the second page, if full-time staff. So Supervisor Barheit can jump in if I miss anything, but the consensus from this document was that we still can continue to add to this information as we get numbers like insurance, but at this point, it's cost prohibitive to go down this road. It's not, it's good to have the information, but it's not cost effective. And then lastly, you have a email tonight concerning Nakusa Ambulance Service and the city of Nakusa. You, from the last board meeting, you were emailed a letter on Monday that was shared with the mayor and the chief of their ambulance service regarding the comments and questions that were brought up at the last town board meeting. But very soon after that letter was sent, I don't know that that letter was a catalyst for this email or not, but this email was sent about moving the ambulance, stationing the ambulance back in the city of Nakusa for the month of July in order for them to work on staffing issues and operations. So as a town, we wanted to have the conversation tonight with the town board. We haven't made a response back to this letter. We do have a draft response prepared that would request Nakusa Ambulance then to move any personal items, because several of the ambulance personnel have personal items in the building, to move those personal items out of the building for the month of July. And we were discussing if turning off key card access for that month, because if they're not operating the ambulance out of it, then the staff shouldn't be operating out of that building for that month. If there would be additional things that we would like to include in that letter, that's a conversation for tonight. We certainly can. Like I said, we have a draft response, but we have not sent anything at this point.
The other letter was sent, and
Yes.
Supervisors, you've got a copy of that one? I don't think this is a full response to that letter.
No,
They
there's
answered
3 or
our
4 other
questions.
No, they
items.
did
What
not.
I mean, so we still need to get a response from them on the initial letter. And I do agree, the items here shouldn't be, they shouldn't be staying here.
Yeah, I think that's a liability concern,
Yeah.
and for that reason, we should be asking them to remove that for the period of time that they're not using, going to station ambulance that.
Sure.
Well, and access too, right?
And access to, yes, which I believe the police chief has communicated his desire to close off the access to that once their personal items are out of there and the prescriptions as well.
Yeah. Jason?
I was just gonna say, along with the personal items, the medication should leave as well. We don't have prescriptions for that. That's under their control. If they're not operating, they should take all the medications and medical supplies out of that bedroom. We don't want the responsibility if any of that goes missing or gets damaged.
It's probably code dated too, right? get used and it's out of code. I had a question too. Yesterday, or today, there was an ambulance service up on, going by Penhurst, and I did see the Nakusa come through, and then I saw Wisconsin Rapids come through. Does the person pay for both of those services to show up, or?
I do not know how the billing
Coordination.
works on that, so that would be something we'd have to ask their billing entity if they would received both. I would assume they didn't have a paramedic on staff, and so the Wisconsin Rapids ambulance came down to have mutual aid.
I only saw one person in Nakusa, but I didn't know if he was in the front or in the back, so.
Yeah.
Thoughts on this?
I would just say, you know, if they're gonna do this for the month of July for staffing reasons and other issues, we're not happy about that, obviously, but I think we should emphasize that we'd like to see it return to service the following month, and that this should not be something that we're going to endorse in the long term.
And I think that, so that piece is likely an important comment to put in light of our MOU, which anticipates where there is something that is not satisfying the terms under the MOU, that there's a good faith effort to remedy that. And so I think we put in place that we expect that they'll return it in August. If they're not, then we're going to work through what exactly it's going to take to get that there. I mean, if they have a timeline that needs to extend out, so be it, but I think we need to have that communication in a lot better fashion than we have been so far.
For sure, yes. Jason?
I think the letter should be very clear and very bold from this town board. We built $1 million building out there, and we built it after consulting with them and getting their commitment to put an ambulance out in that building. Now, here we sit, less than 2 years later, them saying they're gonna take the ambulance out. I don't know who in their right mind would even consider a proposal from them moving forward after they've reneged on the gentleman's agreement that we have with them to put an ambulance out there to begin with. And I would be stunned if the ambulance comes back in August, based on the city council meetings that I've attended up in the city and comments that aldermen have made, or council members, excuse me, that sit on that board. They're the ones that said they want the ambulance at one station because 2 aren't working, based on their current staffing.
Well, I think the RFP that
Situation.
they have from us in their hands is a pretty clear indicator of what our expectations are in the not so distant future. So if they can't meet that, then they need to be transparent with us and tell us that.
Yeah, in discussion with town council too, they are within, I guess, the letter of the law, but the MOU is the issue right now, and that
Not
probably
legally
was not
enforceable.
a good, yeah, it
Well,
probably wasn't.
yeah, the issue really was, as I've said before, the timing of the MOU. So we didn't have a building at the time that the original agreement was put into place. And so we wanted an MOU, so we at least had some kind of mutual understanding. That MOU doesn't control the agreement. In fact, there's provisions that say the agreement continues, right? But we will work towards a good faith resolution to the terms under the MOU, and so I think that's what we set up in the letter response, and then, yeah, we continue to work through that. But as Supervisor Goman said, our RFP is a pretty clear indicator of where we see this town's future ambulance services, you know, and how that's set up.
I think we give them a limit to respond to our initial letter. This isn't good enough, and then I would say, what timeframe? A week? Less than a week? That was shot out last week to them, right?
The initial letter gave them until July 1.
Okay.
So we can reiterate that in this letter to say,
Yep.
the email that you sent is not sufficient. We still want responses to our questions by July 1, in addition to personal property removed from the building by July 1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that needs to go out ASAP.
I guess I don't take this email as a response to that letter, especially
No.
because it's addressed to other towns
Yep.
aside
Yeah.
from us.
It's kind of vague. And
Their
again,
timing was
No.
in very similar hours.
I think Chief Lauby said it best too. I mean, we built that building in concert with them, and their discussions that we had prior to this, even though it wasn't codified, we should remind them of that obligation.
So I have a question. So presumably if there's a lapse of service from the Nakusa ambulance till we get this all sorted out, and the chief's point, maybe this is even longer than just July into August or whatever. what's discussed and due to this, so the contingency plan for making sure we have a deprecation of service and response time to the town of Rome and our community.
Can we just have you identify yourself for the minutes too, please?
Sure, Paul DeGrazia.
Well, truthfully, we're not getting what we thought we were getting in the first place, which is why we sent this letter with a whole bunch of questions to get data from them. So I don't know that it could get worse than it is at this point.
The other piece of that is the mutual aid, so
With Rapids.
they do have mutual aid with Wisconsin Rapids as noted. I mean, Wisconsin, if there would be a moment in time, Wisconsin Rapids has agreed to fill those calls for them. I understand that's a longer response time, right? They're coming from Rapids, but they have an agreement with Rapids to provide response.
Yeah, Nick, did you have anything to add to that?
I don't, so as the administrator had pointed out, there is a draft letter that hits on a lot of what was discussed here. We'll add to that draft letter and.
Well, there'd be nothing to prohibit us from accepting one of these RFP proposals that comes back to us July 22nd and implementing it earlier than the 1st of next year, if we saw someone who gave us the right terms and conditions.
Is that an option?
So when you paid this most recent bill, is that through the rest of this?
Yes,
So-
that's
So, yeah, I mean,
Well, we could
technically,
ask
I
them
guess you
to
just have, you
prorate
would
that.
have technically an overlap. You'd communicate to them that we've gone with somebody else and we're walking away.
They probably wouldn't care if they got paid for it.
Yeah,
I mean,
so they've been
there's
paid.
nothing, no skin off their back if they quit providing a service. I mean,
So,
we gotta
sure, it's
hold them to the
option.
contract which says they provide us a service, an admin service.
Apologies, so I really didn't hear an answer to the question that I asked, so with the ambulance not being here in town at the station, the way it would build for them, what are we gonna do to ensure our response times? Because coming from Rapids, that's a long way. I mean, sometimes the town has to wait for Nakusa, but a lot of times you have the ambulance right here. You know, everyone knows all the time is everything with EMS. So is there something that we're gonna do to make sure that we have some replacement in the interim that's here in town, or we're gonna have to rely on mutual aid for our community, especially with the elderly population that we actually have? Medical needs that the folks have in this community.
You're raising a good point, but we're having problems getting answers to what is the actual response time in the first place from Nakusa, from their data. And the other thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I recall Rapids' response can actually be faster than Nakusa,
It depends where the
but
ambulance is.
depending on which
yeah.
station it's coming out of.
Right, but not if
So-
the ambulance is right there.
Well, right, but we can't force Nakusa to do
No, I
anything,
understood.
or Rapids.
But right now, we have that in place, and that's gonna be taken away, not our fault, right, not our fault. But I think the community, I think if folks knew that, they would like, well, what are we gonna do? I mean, we have a lot of people that, they have heart attacks or whatever, and that's critical from a timing perspective. The difference between having an ambulance there or coming from there could be someone's life.
Right, and I think the data that we're trying to get is gonna demonstrate that what people believe is there hasn't been there for a long, long time.
Yeah, the original contract didn't specify service from this location.
Sure, it sounds like it was kind of like a handshake agreement or whatever, so.
Yeah,
Which
most
is half the building.
memorandum of understanding was
Right.
created after the fact, and that's not really enforceable, and that's the issue we're facing.
Right.
So we're, to the point too, yeah, we want them here. They said they wouldn't be here for July, so we're gonna press them for August and say, get back here.
Right.
If
Get
that's-
back here.
Just for consideration, just input from the community.
It is a good point, though, if we get one of these requests back earlier and we can get somebody else in here responsible, by all means, we'll jump on it. We'll work on it, but
Right, or even you can take first responders here and staff them until you get ambulance mutual aid.
we don't have an ambulance.
Right, but you have first responders that can push drugs and do all
Well-
the life-saving care that it takes when someone's down. You have the equipment right next door to do that.
Yeah,
You can't transport, but you certainly can have someone on the scene much quicker if they have to come from town.
You'd have to check with our fire department. There are a lot of qualified people on there, but I can't speak to that. I don't know their
I'm just
capabilities.
throwing out options. I don't know what's
And-
considered or not considered, so.
First
First
responders
responders.
that would respond now would continue to respond.
Correct, but you have to wait for them to respond here and then go out versus having, if you have quarters there, have people just, instead of, if you're not gonna pay Nakusa ambulance service until you get something sorted out, pay a couple people, that are first responders to sit there at the station, and they can take the first responder rig out, and at least give critical care immediately until you can get a transport, just a thought. I'm just saying, there's other things we can do to kind of protect ourselves until we get all this ambulance stuff sorted out. Just throwing an idea out there, so.
It's an idea.
Food for thought.
Look at it. Especially if they're not gonna come back in August. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think if they're not gonna come back in August, then I think we do rush, well, not rush, but we expedite our review and processing of the remaining requests for proposals. And sadly, that would mean we'd end up paying twice for the remainder of the year,
Yes,
because
it would be a small price to pay. It'd be
it
about
is a very small
$15,000.
price to pay. But luckily, you know, the requests are out there, so that's a good thing. So hopefully there's a viable alternative.
Do we need, oh, Steve? Yes.
You want it from the chair, or?
Actually,
A
Jamie,
couple
can you speak from
comments,
there? or-
so
It,
Doesn't matter to me. I just don't want a big group.
Acoustic's pretty good in this room.
yeah.
All right. Steve Noicke, 339 Halbert's Court. And I'm coming this evening because, of course, there's been a lot of buzz around town about the ambulance service and whatever, and I have the opportunity to have been in all these positions, as a town chairman, as a supervisor, now as a first responder, so I can look at it, I think, honorably from all angles. And I'm concerned, very much concerned, as a person that gets to get on a lot of these calls, and seeing some of these patients, as sounding selfish at first, I'd like to know as a first responder, do I have backup coming or not? You know, where is it? I just did a quick check off our log the other day, and we have 16 medically qualified people on the roster right now. Okay, so I mean, I think we can man something. Earlier you talked about, and I have some questions as you got requests for proposals, and I know they went out there and probably can't change them, but I'd like to say some food for thought as you look at this, because some of these are concerning to me. Has anybody contacted the medical officer at Aspirus, who oversees and signs our licenses for practice here in the community? Has anybody contacted them and got feedback from what he thinks would be? Second question, I'm very concerned about having any for-profit ambulance service come in. Being somewhat familiar with the medical field for many years, my concern would be their first instinct is they have to make money. They're for-profit, they're going to put their profit above all else. That will mean they'll take transfers prior to, oh, we've got a call to move a patient, we're gonna do that, because it pays well, versus sitting in the station, maybe we'll get a call, maybe we won't. So I'm not in favor of having those types of institutions in here, because I don't think you're going to have any better service than what you have right now. That'd be a very strong concern I have. The other thing is, I'm not seeing any request from public input, saying, hey, you know, people, if it costs you X, would you be interested in doing this? How would your, you know, value of your dollar versus your healthcare needs be important to you? I mean, it seems to, it's cost prohibitive, but along those lines, have we asked Leola, Big Flats, Monroe, would they join us in a service? Was that even asked? I don't know. I'm asking these questions and posing them to you. I know you can't have conversations. But as you brought out just a little bit ago, and that was one of the questions I wrote down, what would your RFP include, for example, consequences of failure to perform? Are you building something in there that says, hey, not just, I mean, you can't go through a legal situation sitting there when you have lives on the line, say, well, we're not coming and now I'm mad at you and you're mad at me, and we sit here with no ambulance service. I don't think our community deserves that, and I'm very concerned about that. So, and again, the last question I really have, yes, we built the structure here with the anticipation of having ambulance. I thought it was a good idea. I liked it. I supported it. Obviously, it isn't working out. Maybe we have the wrong partner. I don't know. In any department, there's all kinds of politics at any time, so I can't speak on their behalf. But I'm wondering if we're not premature on this. And I want to know, has any supervisors contacted the fire department as far as come into the department and talk to any of the staff and say, hey, what do you guys think? What's important to you? Because I, as one, they're quite frequently not any contact. Not that you have to contact me, but I just think, wow, you have this source here for people. Have you taken the time to ask what we think? So those are my comments that I wanted to state tonight.
Thank you. Jamie, can you address any of those?
I'm just making a note. So first, medical direction from Aspirus. I would have to check my notes on the individual who I spoke to, but I did call. I was advised that both the medical director and the other emergency room doctor are busy. I said I wanted to make them aware that we were taking the RFP. I also wanted to know if they would answer any medical questions that we received regarding the RFP. I also made an extension out to Gunderson and asked the same thing of their emergency room provider. So the Spires did say that their two emergency room doctors were very busy, that I likely would not hear back from them, but that she would share the information. As far as the transfers for the ambulance, we did ask as part of the RFP that they would include if they would take transfers and how that would work into the schedule of them providing coverage for the town of Rome. So that needs to be addressed as part of their response back. The request or the joining in the service with the neighboring municipalities. No, we have not directly asked either Leola or Big Flats about joining. I think there was a feeling that we needed to have some direction about where we wanted to go before we would ask, and I think there was also a piece of, I understand we're talking about issues that we're having with Nakusa Ambulance. I don't know that all of the other municipalities are having those issues. So, if the board would like, I'm happy to reach out to Big Flats and Leola or other neighboring municipalities, but I just sort of thought we wanted a better direction of where we were going before we would ask others. Consequences on failure to perform contract, that would be part of a contract that we would take. I think even though it was before some of our times here, I think we've learned from this agreement, and whatever agreement going forward will be much stronger. It'll be a much different agreement than we currently hold now with our ambulance provider, but that would be taken up in contract.
Question on your comment, you said that, would you consider seeking other municipalities? And I think as you go forward, you can't, in my opinion, do a complete cost analysis without knowing if these communities would participate. And yet, nationwide and locally and everybody else is doing shared services. You brought it up tonight, of doing shared services. And to me, it's just logical that, we've got communities, and I know from my own experience working on the fire department, whatever, with Big Flats, we seem to get along just fine. There's no problem, no issues whatsoever. They seem to be willing to participate, and not at least asking, I think, is closing that two-way street, as Jerry mentioned earlier, that we're not including them. And I kind of think you should.
Chief Taub has been in contact with them, both on fire district and ambulance, I thought. I know he's included them as part of the plan here.
He has been in contact with them as far as fire district. I don't want to speak for what he has been in contact with them as far as ambulance. I guess the flip side of that is once we would see who would propose, we would have to see if they're looking to also take on additional municipalities.
Okay, but as far as the initial cost analysis that's in front of us here, there is a projection that would include if they participated, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna be without service pretty much the same as we will if we don't have Nakusa, because Nakusa services them.
Same
We're
load
Big
or worse.
Flats. So,
I don't know I also am not sure what their, obviously Nakusa has had the conversation about going down to a basic life support ambulance, a BLS, and 2 EMTs. I don't know what their comfort level is with that. Our town board has said that they would like to have to keep an ALS service, that's important. So I'm also not sure how those municipalities feel, if they would be comfortable with that or not. I'm happy to reach out to them and ask them if they would be comfortable, but I guess then the flip side is, depending on who replies back to the RFP, seeing if they can accept
Why
that.
don't we reach out with them before the RFP comes back and share the fact that we have the RFP and give them a copy of it so that they can start thinking about it at least.
But we do have on here, like Dan said, we have Big Flat runs, Monroe runs, and there's costs associated with those. Are those?
That's just data that we can have access to from ambulance runs, so it's not.
Wasn't direct contact with them?
No, I don't, I would have to ask Chief that if he actually asked them. I know through the fire district, he asked them for a series of information, if that was an additional question. But we
think
have
the
not
chief-
directly asked them about ambulances.
The chief indicated, I think, that he thought that Big Flats was happy with the service that they were getting today and weren't interested, but that doesn't preclude us from going back and explaining again to them the situation that we have.
They also just got this email on the 15th that might persuade them otherwise.
Yeah.
So I'd like to reiterate, just to emphasize what Steve said. So just a little more color. So I'm a 20-year firefighter EMT in another department. It's kind of, I'm smiling a little bit because it's kind of deja vu all over again. Town I started in, we were 5,000 people volunteer. We ran 500-600 calls a year. And I'm hearing a lot of the same conversations and challenges here now in the town of Rome that I did 20 plus years ago, almost 20 years ago, with the town that I came from. And on paper, RFPs and contract services sound good. You can push the numbers around and they might look okay. But I can tell you contract services are, in general, they tend to be a launching point for people's career. They're very transient, independent of the for-profit stuff. So I really, it would behoove you, and maybe there's folks on here that have a lot of fire service and EMS experience. I don't know, but I can't emphasize what Steve said. If you don't take anything away, the number one thing is you need to come talk to us next door. There's a lot of experience back that's there. And we also all have to work together with these ambulance services. They are for-profit, and they're transient, and they are difficult to work with. And I don't think we need to realize what we're biting off, because if you don't have direct experience, again, some packet paper versus actually, running the ambulance or the back step of an engine chasing an ambulance and working out on the scene and working patients together with folks in the ambulance service, you need to talk to us, and we can share some stories that might provide some color of the real world implications of decisions that are being made in this room.
Have you guys discussed the ambulance challenges that we're experiencing within your department meetings?
All the time.
Okay, and Chief Taub was present at those meetings?
When we had those discussions, sure.
So we have an ambulance services subcommittee that's established to discuss a lot of those concerns, and if Chief Taub isn't bringing those to the table, then I think the rest of this board needs to know that. And I'm looking at you, Bob, just because you're a part of that committee.
Well, I thought.
That's a conduit, it's a big conduit of information flow, right?
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, we've established this whole process to vet some of that stuff out.
Yeah, well, I'm saying maybe you need to rethink that process. That's what I'm proposing. Because I don't think, you can't put that even all on one person. The chief knows a lot, is super knowledgeable. I think you also just need to have conversations with folks and just understand it. Just have people talking to people. Doesn't have to, do whatever you gotta do to stay within the, the proper constraints, but you need to have conversations. You need to understand what people are going through and how all this works. It is not a paper whipping exercise, and that's what I feel like you guys are making it. I get what you're trying to do, you have a directive to do. But the fire service is not about that. It's about serving the community in the best way and understanding what it really means. Unless you've actually been in a call and done CPR on somebody, and while people are screaming in the background, please save my mom, you need to talk to us. Because there's a whole different world that we will open up to you and share it with you. That's a gift that we are offering you. So do with it what you will.
So certainly, anyone would be welcome to attend the meeting, the next meeting, which would be July 22nd, where we'd open that RFP. And maybe the board wants to invite a member or two to serve also on the ambulance subcommittee and be a part, if, depending on what we get back for RFPs, if we do interviews or processes through, that there would be an additional member from the fire department that would join that interview process. And then could ask those direct questions of whatever provider we would be looking at.
It's a good idea.
Good idea.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
Very good idea.
that's fair.
Some of us have had discussions with others. I talked to Arnie over at Grand Rapids, and he's thrilled with the service they have, but I couldn't tell you if it's private or, I have no idea. But,
It's United.
yeah, is that private or is that?
Private.
Yeah.
It's also right next door to the town hall.
Makes it efficient.
But that would be one of the individuals, that United Medical Emergency Response, that requested a proposal. That's a current proposal holder.
Are there other ones out there? I mean, are you familiar with any other services? Jamie listed the ones that the RFP went out to. Are there other services out there you're familiar with that we maybe ought to contact?
I will look into it, I'll ask, I'll see. Got a few people that I know, yeah.
Okay.
I'll ask if there's someone they think would come to the area, not just limit our search to the immediate area.
Well, there might be more opportunities for them too down the road in the area here.
One doesn't know.
Yep.
There you go.
I think too, we don't want to lose sight of one of the things that Steve brought up, and that was the value of these services and what our people in our community are willing to pay. What they're paying now is a pittance compared to what I would, my own self, pay for a service that I could count on. Right now, it's $20 per household.
$16 per capita, $16.04
Okay,
per capita.
$32 per two-person household.
Yeah, and I will claim not to be an expert in this, but since you brought it up, but I know people that are experts that set all this up, with the whole way that ambulance services does all their billing and all that works. I mean, it actually is, a lot of times it can actually be self-sustaining, especially in an expanding community like ours, you know, how we build.
Yeah, we've talked about that in our subcommittee too, and I think the consensus is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but since we have such an elder population here, most of the calls, the vast majority of them are going to be handled through Medicare, and those bills get chopped way, way down.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those just to keep in mind, especially as for all those, see all the land being cleared over there by Sand Valley, the mix is gonna change, and it's gonna change rapidly. So, it'll be interesting, but yeah.
Just a final comment, you have some of the infrastructure already here. So I kind of think, being an old farm boy and looking back, the old adage was, the guy with the combine gets his grain harvested first. So bear that in mind sometimes.
Yeah.
Have it yourself, you can operate it yourself.
And that's where the passion, you're part of this community, you live here, and that's why we all do what we do. I mean, because we want to serve people that we live with. And you don't have that ownership with an ambulance service. You have people that are committed here being paid nothing because we love it. The people aren't doing that next door because they're getting their money. They're doing it for the passion of serving the community. I did it for years. I didn't make a nickel. I did it, and we were way busier than here early on as a volunteer department, not a paid-on-call department. The fire service is all about passion and serving the community, just like the military is. You do it because you love it, not because you're going to become a millionaire, because you never will. And that's who I want working on me or on my family members when they're down or they're pinned in the car or somebody's going to a building that's on fire and drag somebody out. Again, that's why I think it's good, like Steve well said, it's like you have a lot more here than maybe you guys realize. And if you talk to us, I think hopefully this opened up your eyes or just provided some more data points or just food for thought.
Yeah, we're always open for communication for sure. I like you said before, that having a first responder available, I think that's something to explore, especially if we have any more issues with Nakusa.
Well, in addition to that, Chief Taub is a paramedic and does carry a medical bag in his vehicle. So, I mean, being a paramedic, I believe the medical director has given him the ability to push additional medicine because of his credentials. I can double check that, but.
Yeah, let's explore. Nick, do we need to make any recommendations here or motions?
So is the.
Keeping track of all this?
Well, yeah, so I think we're still looking for I think we have a general consensus from the discussion, but maybe some direction that you'd like a follow-up letter sent regarding the issues that we discussed today. If you could give us that direction as a motion, I think that would be helpful, and then we will get that processed and out tomorrow.
Yeah. Can I get a motion to that effect?
I move that we send follow-up letter of that nature, and we do it prior to the July 1st date.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. And I think too, we can look forward to any of these RFPs come back early if somebody has an opportunity to move forward earlier. Make sure we know about that. If we have to call a special meeting, I'm all for it.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
One other question. When we evaluate these proposals, we basically had two that Chief Taub presented to us. One of them was on-call with no full-time staff, and the other one was with a full-time staff, and the costs are dramatically different, of course. But I was wondering if you had any thoughts about basically doing it on-call here locally with our own people versus having full-time staff here. Steve?
I've actually, since this started swirling around, been thinking a lot of that and doing my own soul searching on that. And as Paul had said, you know, you're not in it, there's not money in it for you to do it, but you really want to serve your public. And I feel, well, I haven't asked everybody in the department, I feel when I looked at this roster of who is certified and licensed in the state of Wisconsin, I feel confident there's a lot of people that would step forward and take paid on-call weeks, saying, okay, you gotta cover this week, so you're gonna be here and whatever. I think that type of scenario could work in our area. And like I said, I think we're early yet in our development of the town. I think a lot more is gonna grow. I think we're headed in that direction, and I think we have to look forward to that direction. We can't do it, we're gonna take care of this year now or next year. I think that's too short-sighted.
Yeah, I think we
you
need
gotta build
to,
it
I think we
long-term.
really need to revisit that, Jamie. And perhaps put a little bit more detail into it, and with the thought that the wages that they're proposing, in my mind, I still can't fathom how a person would do this at $16 an hour. It just boggles my mind.
I don't earn that, so, like I said, I didn't do it for the money, but I know lawnmower people get paid more.
Yes, exactly. Even a paramedic, what they get paid, a full critical care paramedic doesn't get paid what they're worth, not even close. Go ahead.
Am I able to speak freely about how I feel? I'm not representing anyone, is that acceptable?
Yourself.
Yeah. Personal,
Go ahead.
complete opinion. So my name is Tabitha Taub. I am a Nakusa ambulance member. I am a Town of Rome employee. I have been born and raised in this community, and I don't want anything, I don't want Nakusa ambulance to die. I've been there since 2014. I'm not trying to help them, and I'm just giving you an opinion. When I take call time, I'm getting paid $12 an hour. I am a critical care paramedic, and I don't care about getting paid. I want to make sure that the people I care for can look at me and go, oh, thank God you're here, it's you. They can look at me and say, I know my mom's in good hands. And so $12 an hour to me, when it's put in a certain perspective, is not that much, but in another perspective, if I'm on call at the station here or at my house, I get the luxury when I'm stationed down here to stay at my house. I can do housework, I can do anything as long as I have 6 minutes response time. When I used to put a lot of hours in and I was away from home, I was able to do whatever I wanted. I could go for a walk around the block, I could play video games, I could watch TV for $12 an hour. I could get a call in 24 hours, or I could get absolutely none for 48. I've had plenty of days like that.
Sure.
So it may seem like nothing, and sometimes people just need to see different perspectives of, yeah, they're not getting paid a lot, but at the same time, they are getting paid a lot to be waiting for us, for the call.
The other thing I think too is if we had our own ambulance, we could really improve the response time that we have even out of this building now, because there would be nothing to prevent a paramedic from going directly from their home to the scene and a police officer driving the ambulance over there if necessary.
I don't think police officers.
Things of that could be worked out, but I think you have quality service people in the community that I think we need to look at.
Yeah, and even for the fire department, it's an organic way to grow the department too, right? And typical departments that grow, you a lot of times grow through your ambulance that crosses over and you get people that are on the fire department, which we always need people on the fire department. You want those cross skills, so like having someone like Tabitha that has EMS experience, but yet I can jump on the engine with her and we're gonna go, she's gonna understand that, and have that understanding and that cross experience is very valuable. And all that does, again, is just we can serve the community better, which is all that we want.
Okay, Jason, we're gonna try and wrap this up here. Jason?
I'll come up to the podium. I've gotten messages that people can't hear us at home. I guess I said this in the ambulance committee meeting, I'll say it here. Nakusa Ambulance pays what they pay. Those people are in it to help their community. They're not down here because the people aren't stepping up to the plate. It's an employee issue, so it has to do with either pay, their job, and they don't have enough time to dedicate it to it anymore. But it's a personnel issue. Their council has said that up there. They have 40-some members on their service, I believe, to staff an ambulance. So if you only staffed one, you cut that in half to 20. These folks just said they have 26 people left on their roster at the fire department. I was the public safety director here 5 years ago. Their staffing level's at 40. Volunteerism is going away. People don't have the time to do it. I would love to see us get an ambulance here. But as has been said before, and you can read articles across the state, people are ending up having to go with Wisconsin Rapids or in the Portage County area, Stevens Point, because the small ones are failing because the people don't have the time to volunteer with the busyness of their lives and other things going on. And I said this when we built that building over there. I said we should have Nakusa, the people that live in town, just like Tabitha said, those are the ones that are gonna make it work. I said that to many people. Jerry was on the board and heard me say it before we put a screw in the building over there. We should have had an ambulance put out in building 3 and made sure we were gonna have the staffing for it. And if we start our own, once we invest in it, then it's a little too late if it doesn't work. We're just gonna have to keep throwing money at it. And then you end up hiring 1 full-time, then it's 2 full-time. Pretty soon you got 8 full-time paramedics for 200 ambulance calls a year. And that doesn't make financial sense. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, we're gonna close off discussion here. Do you have is there another subcommittee meeting coming up soon?
The next one would be to open the RFPs on July 26th.
Make a suggestion, you have another one and before
Yep,
that?
we can call a special one. And I would think that the purpose of calling that special one would be to re-explore the memo that you got from Chief and those on-call hours. I know it was brought up too about the on-call wages, and we will explore that further. But I don't believe that we can offer 3 to 4. I think we have to offer minimum wage if we're gonna do that, so we'll adjust those numbers on what that would mean too, because that'll bring that cost up.
Well, I can't speak to ambulance on-call wages, but my wife works as a chaplain over at St. Vincent in Green Bay, and in her nights when she's on call, she gets paid $2 an hour to sit at home. So they don't pay their on-call, but that's a chaplain, not a paramedic.
Yeah, it has to do with expected response time.
Okay. I had one other question. So there was a suggestion about including a member of the fire department on that subcommittee. Do we need to make a motion to add one more member, or is that just something the subcommittee is able to do on their own?
I think they can just add them on, that's.
I think as long as we have it noted in minutes
Yeah.
that that was a consensus, and I can reach out to Chief and ask him to ask members for an additional.
Just wanted to make sure that we're gonna
Yep.
get somebody on there.
So one, maybe even 2.
Okay.
With it.
Quick question, Jamie, you said July 22nd earlier, and then you just stated July 26th.
It's July 22nd, I'm sorry, July 22nd is when the RFPs are due.
Okay.
July 26th is when the committee would meet and they would open. But I will reach out to the committee for a meeting in between that time.
All right, thank you.
Real quick question, I hope. These numbers that have been reworked twice now, was there any other questions regarding any of the other content other than the wages that were proposed?
Well, I wanted to kind of have the revenue broken down a little bit better so that we could see that some of the billing would not be just $400. It could be a lot more than that for someone who wasn't on Medicare. So I don't know whether the average would come back to 400. I suspect it could be higher than that. And I think we also wanted to make sure the on-call hours were reflective of the minimum wage. And I think it could be broken out a bit plainer, because when we went through this, I had a lot of questions just to be able to understand it.
How are we vetting the source of this information?
Well, the problem is there wasn't the ability to talk to someone who does the billing, for example, and get more definitive numbers. I think Chief talked to them and got the $400 figure from them as an average.
Again, we could bring them in. I think there was a concern that if we're not going to pursue more of that creation on how much information they would provide to us in advance, but we can certainly reach out to them again and ask if they would provide even more information about what they would potentially see for income. Some of it will depend on how we would determine on billing too. If we would do a la carte for what's used, or if you have this certain service, it would be used, or if it's just BLS or ALS. Ambulance systems can bill differently.
And the operating costs?
we just had conversations about if we felt, we talked about averages for wages, we did talk about that minimum wage piece. And then as far as, like he included the picture of the ambulance and what they were asking for, that was a used ambulance. We talked about a used instead of new because new would be prohibited. So that was just in conversation.
Okay. I will
Okay, let's wrap this up. Move that up next meeting, a little further up, I guess. All right, number 13, discussion and possible action, approval of resolution 21, establishing an American Rescue Plan, ARPA, local fiscal recovery funds, LFRP, RF, grant fund, and update on Town of Rome funding amount. You got a surprise here, don't you?
So there was a memo included in the packet just talking a little bit about these American Rescue Plan Act funds and how much the town will receive. I also included for you just what all of the municipalities in Adams County will receive. The allocation will be made in two amounts, and the resolution from in front of you tonight creates a special revenue account as we've been instructed to create to put those funds in. We will be receiving $288,047.86. I don't know that it's a discussion for this evening, but I think we need to have a discussion about what we may want to spend those funds on. It is limited by the Recovery Act. I did put out a couple ideas just to start a conversation in the memo that included if we wanted to start what we would need as an interim process to get the sewer system started in Rome Town Center. Doing the water utility extension loop from Leisure to State Highway 13, or essentially Town Hall. Right now, that loop for the water utility goes to the water tower and serves Rome Town Center and then comes to Town Hall and dead ends. This would create a loop in case any side would have to get cut off. Nobody would lose water service. We have been exploring the replacement of lost interest income that's allowed or lost room tax revenue. At this point in time, we've received the calculation for lost revenues year over year, and I don't know that we will qualify for taking any lost revenues. You probably all received an email from Wisconsin Towns Association that talked about claiming lost revenues, and then that could go into for any budget item, and I don't believe that we will have that situation here. And then the last item, which wasn't on the bullet point but came up in conversation afterwards, is there's a landlocked parcel of land that's owned by the state right now that had some interest through Tri-Lakes to be purchased to do some storage of the weeds that are harvested on it. And maybe a partnership with Tri-Lakes to purchase that 40 acres because that would also relieve some congestion within the transfer site if those weeds were taken to that parcel instead of put at the transfer site, and then working out a land lease agreement with Tri-Lakes.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution establishing an ARPA local fiscal recovery funds grant fund for the town.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a question. Purchase safety equipment, one of the options that that's permissible, like an ambulance?
That wouldn't be COVID related, so you can purchase the safety equipment, but like PPE equipment. So an ambulance would not be an applicable one.
You don't have one?
We can ask the question,
Well,
but
if you're establishing a new ambulance service, you would be.
what's your initial thought on that?
That, we'll look into it
Yeah.
and get you an answer.
Okay.
To give you any other answer would be speculation.
No, I'm just asking.
Yeah, it's a good question, something that we can explore.
I know they wouldn't pay for replacing old equipment. This is a new operation that we're trying to establish, safety operation.
Or another, maybe through the Legacy Foundation too. Health of the community?
You can certainly ask.
Doesn't hurt to ask.
Yeah, there might be other grant opportunities also that, we could explore.
Do we have any grant experts here? People that know I mean, I'm learning there's more and more out there. Last meeting with Assemblyman Krug, I learned a little bit more about the Knowles Nelson, but starting to find out there's many more out there. And federal, who knows what's out there? I mean, we need to, again, we're not experts, but maybe we need to find an expert that can help us go through some of these. I know there's just all sorts of things out there we don't know about. You don't know what you don't know.
There are certainly professional grant writers that are available for hire.
I don't want a grant writer, I want researchers, people
And
that say, here.
That's part of what they do, though. They research for grants based on what your needs are and then would write those grants. I mean, there certainly are those people. I don't know if UW Extension either in any of the surrounding counties has a specific individual. That would be my first contact, would be to them to see if they had anyone.
Get a phone call up there, see if they do, see if they got somebody.
Check with the Towns Association too. They would know people that know about grants. I mean, I know what's out on school side for private schools. I don't know what's out for municipalities.
And there's a lot of federal grants that are out there, so I have, there are, she's absolutely spot on, there's professional grant writers, whatever, but there's also a lot of folks that, these full-time departments, but if there's interest, I have contacts and stuff too, so people that actually kind of gone through this and learned and figure out just like we're doing. Like I said, I'm not an expert in that, but I know people that are experts.
Yeah, you go on the Knowles Nelson site, and the map is there of Wisconsin. There's money flowing all over the place.
There is money all over.
It's
there's money everywhere.
Yeah.
Even at a federal level, there's a lot of money too.
I was flabbergasted at what was out there. Okay, we did pass that one, right?
I don't think we voted.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 14, discussion and possible action, approval of ordinance number 21, recommendation from the Plan Commission on consideration of amendments to, is that chapter? 360 zoning, sections 360-9, 360-35, 360-39, 360-43, 360-60, 360-87, relating to general camping regulations.
So I can give just a bit of background to this. This item comes as a recommendation for approval from the Plan Commission at its June 8th meeting. I give that meeting as the point of recommendation because that was where the public hearing took place and the motion for its recommendation. However, it really has been something that the Plan Commission has been working through and exploring over the last, I'd say, several months. Over that last several months, the Plan Commission really has explored both expansion of the town's camping regulations as well as to look to what the county is or isn't doing with their camping regulations. And so really approaching it from both sides. And then in the last month, asked that I draft the language that's before you this evening. That drafted language then applies the Lake District zoning regulations to all zoning districts that allow camping in the town. So the Lake District regulations were in the LD district. What this does is pulls those Lake District regulations into 360-9. General regulations under sub C is the camping regulations. And you'll see a lot of the language then that was specifically in LD district now apply to the general camping or general regulations related to camping, therefore applying to all zoning districts which allow camping. In your packet, you'll see different color to number 4 under C. That's because we did have a discussion and it was discovered that that the guest camping permit language was inadvertently left out. The motion from the Plan Commission was to make sure that that was included in there so as not to inadvertently disallow guest camping. And so that language that's the reason it's a different color, is because that language was added in as part of the recommendation from the Plan Commission.
The only piece I'd like to add to Attorney Flanagan's explanation there is that if this is adopted tonight, it does make several lots non-conforming uses, meaning people are already camping on them, they're outside of Lake District, and they would not need to take a camping permit or abide by these regulations. Our zoning is not retroactive. If the county would pass the ordinance regarding sanitary, that could be retroactive and would apply to them, and the county would enforce it. But it would not apply to those individuals camping on their lots outside of Lake District. With that said, the burden of proof on non-conforming uses is with the property owner, not with the town. So if someone would say, I don't need to take a camping permit, I was camping here before, it's of their responsibility to show us that, not of our responsibility to prove it. So there wouldn't be a master list created here of those that are camping outside of Lake District, because they would have to reflect that they were camping on the property prior to this resolution.
They have to comply or have evidence why they
Yes.
aren't, or they don't have to.
Am I missing something here? Because when I was reading this at home, I was a little confused about any district which allows camping. You're saying that all districts going forward would allow camping?
No, so the districts which allow or don't allow camping hasn't changed at all.
So why wouldn't we list that in the ordinance, which ones they are?
You do. It's under, so that's why you have all of those specific sections besides just 360-9. You have different sections, 360-35, 360-39, 43, 60, and 87, because those are, camping is a permitted use there. And so by all means, we do address where camping is allowed in the town as a permitted use.
Where is it not permitted?
The town allows camping in all zoning districts. The only place where,
Like SP,
All
I don't think
residential,
does.
isn't it? All residential districts.
Residential?
It's not allowed in commercial other than it.
it's
Yeah.
not allowed in commercial.
Yeah,
That's,
and
yes.
SP, I
In all
think, that special
Yes,
purpose.
right.
Okay.
There's a few
I think
districts.
it's pretty
So,
much all residential.
Thank you for the clarification. In all residential zoning districts, we would. The only exception to that is within Arrowhead through their own covenants, not through the town. They had a moratorium put on camping. You can still camp on your property if there's a primary residence. You can't only camp on your lot.
So it won't matter what size acreage you have out there if it's residential?
Yeah, I mean,
It's covered.
R1 would be 1 acre, you could, and that's our minimum size now for
Mm-hmm.
creation of lots. Yes, you could camp on a 1 acre lot.
So I have a comment that's actually related to that. Got some feedback from somebody who owns multiple acres, and he has a house, but he has another property that people come and they camp on, his friends. It's usually 1 weekend a year, and they usually bring 6 or 7 fifth wheels with them. This ordinance would create a problem for him. And my thoughts was, well, yeah, if I own 20 acres, why can't I have 5 or 6 friends come stay for a weekend? So how would that get, first of all, the language in here would prevent that, because it says 1 guest camping unit.
Well, this is on camping lots where there's no primary residence. Now, he's
Right.
got a primary residence.
But it's on a separate property.
It's on a whole separate lot, it's
Oh.
not,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Right.
Then,
Yeah, if it's on his property with his house, then it's not a problem.
Right.
But, yeah. I'm just thinking of the people that actually have some acreage, this kind of puts some unreasonable constraints as far as guest camping
Do
units.
they have septic for 20 units? Or
Well, no.
however many they bring?
No?
no, they'd be self-contained for the weekend or whatever they,
Oh, right.
their time frame, they'd be within the camping.
Hopefully.
So that, I guess, my thought is, does the 1 guest camper limit apply only to Lakes District as it historically has? And it's simply camping permits for campers elsewhere that are
Or-
limited in time duration.
Or you can add to the language under the guest camping permit that allows 1 additional camping unit for lots under X amount, right?
Yeah.
And then allow more, because that really
That would
gets
make
to
it
the
easier.
root
That would make
of
it
your
Clear
comment,
cut, yeah.
which is that where you have a substantial piece of property, that perhaps more would be, entirely reasonable versus those 7 being on a 1 acre parcel. So you could do it that way, just set that number 4 acres or 5 acres or less, that's where your 1 additional camping unit, and then set that higher, where it's a parcel that's larger than 5 acres.
I think there's also the concern in that aspect though, I think people, we make the camping permits very bright in color, right, so people can see and so you know.
Yeah.
So now it's like, well, why didn't you take a camping permit? Well, because I'm more than 5 acres. As we keep adding things on, it makes it confusing. Do I need a camping permit?
Yeah.
Don't I need a camping permit? And then your neighbor has to take one, but you don't have to take one, and
I think they'd still have to take a camping permit if it was a larger lot. They would just have to, let's say we said that over 5 acres, you could have
Multiple.
5 guest campers. That would be 5 guest camping permits. We need
Provided-
1 permit per guest camper.
Provided sanitary conditions are met.
Yeah.
That ought to be working.
Guest camping.
But on larger lots, they're allowed 2. It says that on several.
Are we just talking about guest camping?
I was
this one
talking
just-
specifically about guest camping,
Yeah.
but
You know,
guest camping.
so we're not talking about just the,
They
so,
could take out a camping permit for a weekend. But again, what I was getting at, we only allow 2. At what point do they have to be a campground? There is something in the ordinance that,
there's a definition of a campground, I think.
right?
right, but so I'm thinking more of the weekend gathering than I am somebody who's constantly got 5 to 10 trailers parked.
What's to stop somebody from going ahead and selling or renting out space? If they got 20 acres and I'm gonna rent out 10 for the weekend.
Can't rent a camper, it's not a dwelling, you'll get a letter. Can't
I mean,
rent a
shared
camper.
costs I can understand, but, you know, if it's income producing. And there is a time limit on these too, guest camping?
Oh, yeah, there's,
It's a-
that's right in the language.
Yeah,
3 15-day periods or something.
15 days, that's.
no more
Thoughts?
than
10
3
days.
non-sequential periods with a maximum of 10 days
days,
each
sorry.
in duration.
15 days must elapse between each period. That's my only concern with it. I mean, I'd like to see the rest go in for sure, but as far as guest campers and that whole setup on properties that are larger than, I don't know, I'm gonna say
5.
Suggestions, table this, send it back for rework?
I don't wanna table it if we can avoid it because
Just
we
add a
got,
sentence
we
to
got
item 4 there. to
approval on-
allow multiple campers on lots that are larger than pick an acreage.
well, you
4
better go
acres.
at least
Yeah.
20 because we got subdivisions that are having some 20-acre parcels in them.
Yeah, Lido. I don't think you'll see
Well,
campers
that's-
over there though,
It doesn't cover your thing because he's got multiple.
yeah.
But that's
But
guest
then-
camping, but why would you make it 20? If we got 20 acres, that can be hidden from everybody's view.
But
So I'm
then,
thinking 5 acres is more reasonable.
we can move on this, but, you know, do you wanna do permits?
I think each guest camper should have to have a permit.
Well, that's that's already in there, right?
Okay.
Each guest camper?
Yes, that's right in there. I think the question is number,
Yeah.
really, and if that number is based on a threshold or land size, what that threshold is.
Can I ask a question just for clarification? So in the situation that we're discussing, if the individual can prove that he's had 5 campers on this weekend prior to this being in, although they're not there now, does that consider a non-conforming use? Because he doesn't have them situated there today. Okay,
Wouldn't non-conform, I mean, to be non-conforming, you have to be continuous, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's not going to be something that can be
Yeah.
defensible with.
okay, just
That would-
checking.
That would be incredibly hard to enforce.
Okay, somebody wanna try a motion on this one?
I would move the approval of the recommended changes to the ordinances, with the addition that under the section pertaining to guest camping, that multiple units, not more than 10 units, be allowed on, guest camper units be allowed on a parcel greater than 5 acres.
I'll second that. However this gets reworked, we have to make absolutely certain that nothing in Lakes District changes from what it is, because
Right.
that's the foundation for all of
Yeah.
this.
Well, that's too small.
No more than 10 units on a parcel 5 acres or more.
Yeah.
Yes, camping.
Yes,
Okay,
camping,
yes.
yes, under
Okay.
guest.
Yes, under guest camping only.
I think that's,
Lake Districts doesn't have any lots bigger than 5 acres, do they?
No,
I bet you'd find a couple.
You probably could now with people buying side lots and CSMing them together, yes, you probably could.
Well, then if you're putting it here, unless you're specifically adding in that except for Lake District.
Yeah, start out
I mean,
with except for the
otherwise,
Lake
you set the-
District.
You
Yeah,
set the
yeah, that's
number
it,
higher.
exclude
Lake District.
Yeah.
Well, 5 acres isn't much. If we're gonna do it, I'd like to see at least 10, because we got these subdivisions with 10, 15 acres.
You wanna tie it in one unit per acre, with 5 and above? That'd be 5 for 5 acres, 10 for 10 acres, 20 for 20 acres.
Sounds good.
That'd be okay.
That works, there we go.
That'd be, 40 acres be
that's
a
a-
campground.
Oh, but it's only.
Put a cap on there, put a cap on?
We're getting the
That really
campground
ramps up.
size.
Yeah, we don't want that. Well, maybe over down with Derek, he's a different subject.
The maximum of.
Put a max on it.
It's only gonna be one person that ever has 20 in their yard. but-
Yeah, that's this year.
That you know of.
Yeah.
So right now, we do have a limit of 10 units, but, and excluding Lake District, but I'm hearing we, maybe upping the 5 to 10 acres.
I would recommend changing it to 10.
I'm okay with that.
I'll second that.
Who was the second on that?
I was-
I think
there
Yeah, I
was
was like,
one.
so I'm.
Yeah, Dan was the original second.
All right. Nick, can you read this one back?
Well.
Well, I don't know what the motion
Yeah,
is.
I'm not
well,
sure.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the Plan Commission's recommendation for amendments to the Town of Rome Code, Chapter 360, with the adjusted language under 360-9 sub 4 to include language that allows for guest camping, not more than 10 units allowed on a parcel greater than 10 acres, and excluding Lake District from that.
Not more than 10 on a parcel greater than 10. So if I've got 9.5 acres, I can only have one other individual.
Two.
Yes.
I don't agree with
Well,
that.
you can have, you can have just the base, but yeah, at guest camping permits, guest camping on 9 acres, 1.
Is it 1 or 2?
One.
Guest camping,
One.
1.
No, one.
Guest camping.
You're gonna have
So,
these
so if,
people in these subdivisions that were already catching all kinds of flack from the residents on complaining that they have a 10 acre or 9 acre, 5 acre parcel and they can have 10 campers on there. That's exactly what
But
they're.
they can't for more than 10 days.
well, so, Mr.
15
Chairman,
days, 15 days.
a
isn't it?
point of procedure, so you do have now a motion, if Supervisor Goldman is not in agreement to amend his motion, then you do actually have a motion and a second to amend it to that, to what I just reviewed, and so you'll probably need to take a vote on that amendment and then decide what you're
So I
going to
need
do
to
with it.
rescind my second, right?
Or you can rescind your, no, otherwise, you're either going to vote on the amendment and figure out what that does to the base vote, or you can rescind your second and we can just go back to no motions on the floor.
I'm assuming the person that brought this up has got more than 10 acres.
Yeah, but if I were to buy 10 acres, let's say I bought 9.78 because it's an odd sized lot, that's kind of not fair. That's a lot of land to not do anything with if I wanted to have a group up for a weekend in the summer.
Could we change it to say 1 guest camping, I think you
gonna
had
have
said
to
1
rescind.
guest camper unit per
Okay,
acre.
I'm gonna
Rescind. Okay.
Somebody did.
He just rescinded.
Okay, so our motion's off, okay, I'll try again. All right.
Motion's still effective, but we need a second. but We
Okay.
need it amended.
But I think
Correct.
he's gonna restate his motion.
I'm gonna restate my motion.
All right.
Move approval of the changes to the Rome Code 360 with the change on the language pertaining to guest camping to allow on parcels greater than 5 acres, 1 guest camping unit per acre with a maximum of 10 guest camping permits per parcel.
I'll second that.
I think you get right into what Supervisor
Oh, do I
Wiesner
need
was
to put
just
in the
saying.
Lake District
You do
thing?
that.
Excluded.
Excluding in the Lake District.
And did you set 5 acres as your threshold?
5 acres is the threshold.
So 6 acres, 6 campers, 7 acres,
7 campers, 8 acres, 8 campers.
Up to
10
Maximum
acres,
10.
10, 20 acres, 10.
50 acres.
Quarter
10.
section, 10.
Is there
you go.
fear in trying to enforce this, or what? I don't understand. Like, we have to allow some fair land use.
Oh, did you also include permits on that?
Oh, yes,
That's
yeah,
all.
permit's in there, I think,
Okay.
per unit.
Any more discussion?
Just read the part about paragraph 4 one more time, what you're adding.
Well, it's with changes to subparagraph 4, to have one additional camping unit on any lot up to 5 acres. At lots greater than 5 acres, allow one additional camping unit per acre, up to a maximum of 10 guest camping units. And then we'll keep all the same language as it is, and we will explicitly exclude Lake District in that. And Lake District will be, I'm starting to think that you may want to just put that language back into Lake District exactly verbatim, because this is going to start reading pretty
It's gonna
convoluted.
mess up Lake District.
Yeah, I have some concerns now that this is going to be.
You don't need, I think you're talking 5 acres or more. It's not an issue in Lake District. I'm pretty familiar with most of the lots, and there is very little, I don't think there's much of any lots that are 5 acres in that.
But if you put it in there, they're already automatically excluded. Since
Yeah,
they
but then if you
wouldn't
exclude it,
have-
it's almost excluding the whole guest camping. You're gonna put on there that this does not apply to Lake District.
I would probably recommend that if we're going to treat Lake District differently, we just put that language right back into Lake District then. That as it's removed, we put it back in, so it reads exactly that way for Lake District.
So it would be right under camping limit, and then it would be added as a number 2 guest camping permit.
Yes,
Yep.
and it would read the same exact way that it was before it was taken out.
And we just exclude that particular Lake District section from the, like, it was gonna get modified, right? Based on all the sections that are listed here? What is it, 360, what?
But Lake District is getting modified significantly anyway. I'll just include the guest camping piece back in.
The guest camping was there originally.
It was.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep, so now, if this was approved, Lake District will have B as camping, 1 as camping limit, 2 as guest camping.
Okay.
Then it doesn't need to be excluded in 360-9.
Right, okay.
Great.
Nick, I need some direction here.
There's a motion
Well,
and a
you
second.
have a motion and
I
second?
believe you have a motion and a second.
And it's
now,
all clear.
because,
Yes.
All right,
Mitchell's motion was seconded by Goldman.
all right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. Number 15, discussion and possible action, approval of recommendation from Plan Commission regarding consideration of a preliminary plat for Alpine Acres subdivision to be located on an 80-acre parcel owned by the Secluded Land Company described as Section 7, Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Northeast 1/4 of Southeast 1/4, and Northwest 1/4 of Southeast 1/4 Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin. Parcel numbers 030-00629-000 and 030-00630-00, is there another 0? Okay, 0. You get a motion, please?
I'll move to approve the recommendation from the Plan Commission regarding consideration of a preliminary plot for Alpine Acres subdivision located on the 80-acre parcel described previously.
And I'm not sure if it's been effectuated yet, but I would just note that in the findings of fact that you have in your packet, the Plan Commission did set a condition that the sale of the land be finalized and owned by Secluded Land. At the time of its meeting, it hadn't been finalized and wasn't owned by Secluded Land.
Okay, so we'll add the fact that Secluded Land has to in fact own it.
You could state as part of your motion, including the findings of fact from the Plan Commission.
Okay. Including the findings of fact from the Plan Commission then.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Jack
Yeah.
Acres is here tonight too, if you had any questions from him.
Yeah, we will also get an impact fee, is that right? For the subdivision?
We would get, there isn't any dedication of parkland, so yes, we would have an impact fee for this one and the
And then
next
the
one.
next one, okay.
No discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 16, discussion and possible action, approval of recommendation from Plan Commission regarding consideration of a preliminary plat for Lake Petenwell Getaway Subdivision to be located on a 60.82 acre parcel owned by the Secluded Land Company, described as Government Lot 4, Section 6, Town 20 North, Range 6 East, Town of Rome, Adams County, Wisconsin, parcel number 030-00598-000. Can I get a motion, please?
Move approval of the recommendation of the planning commission.
Second.
Including the finding of fact, Supervisor?
Yes, including the finding of fact.
Any discussion?
Could I just ask Jack a question? Jack, would you come up to the mic?
Absolutely.
I just think it's interesting just because we've talked so much about land sales. Could you talk a little bit, Jack, about what's the price that these parcels would be marketed for?
Okay, I get asked this question a lot, and I apologize. I'm not in the sales division of our company. I just do this, coming to you folks and stuff like that. But I would have to say historically, a 5 acre parcel here is somewhere between $32,000–$35,000. The bigger ones, I think the ones on Leisure Lane, we just did those 410s there, they were between 55 and 60. So those are ballparks. I apologize, I don't have any rough numbers. I mean, I do have rough numbers, I don't have any solid stuff. I could get them, but that's pretty close, I think.
I think it's just good for you guys to have an idea of what those parcels are selling for.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Discussion and possible action, approval of recommendation from Board of Review regarding acceptance of Associated Appraisals Consultants, Inc., contract proposal for maintenance services from 2022 to 2026 for a cost of $40,000 annually plus an interim market update revaluation in 2023 for a cost of $96,700, which will be budgeted over 2 years.
Already starting on that budget.
Can I get a motion, please?
Hey, Jack.
Motion to approve the recommendation from the Board of Review.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, so I've read through the report that they gave us. And I guess what having a hard time trying to figure out what my gut says to do here, given what the real estate market's doing. Like, this is consistent with what they recommended as well?
Well, there was a time factor involved on
Right.
when a new assessment could be done, and I think that earliest was 2023 to begin
I
with.
think we have 4 years to do it, really.
Yeah.
You do have 4 years to come into compliance,
Right.
yes. So this would be our second year, yes. 'Cause,
But since we're out of compliance, we have to do it.
Right.
And there were 3 options presented to us. This was one that basically does not involve a visit to the home or property. There's something they're gonna do on paper, basically, and looking at market value.
Yep, and so they've been our assessor for a number of years, so they have a lot of this data, and they have a lot of historical data, so they felt comfortable recommending this. Tony Robley, the assessor, did say that they wouldn't recommend this option for all municipalities, but given their level of familiarity with us, they would. He also stated that full revaluations don't, at this point, they have such low response, it's not as high a value as it was in prior times.
Plus, it's extremely expensive.
It is.
Yeah, a lot more.
And nobody wants to let them in the house.
He said their response rates are half right now.
Surprised it's that high.
Yeah.
Any further discussion?
It's good, it's just bringing our value up to what market value is right now,
Yeah.
based on.
Yeah, I get it.
The other piece, we asked Tony, our assessor, several different questions about, so what happens if we're not between 90 and 110 after this is done? Like, you as the assessor, we've taken this contract, you will get us there, you will provide us that information. It's not like, oh, we spent $97,000 and we're not within our levels, and he guaranteed that that's what we're hiring them for, and that would be what would be
Yeah.
completed.
And his professional estimate, he knows we'll get where we need to be.
Yeah.
Well, you look at their history too, over the last several years, they were dead on.
Yeah.
So, it was just the last year, I think, we were out of whack.
Yeah, but we've also, look at the growth we've experienced
Yeah.
and the turnover in sales and the,
Yeah.
Yeah, there hasn't really been a revaluation since, I think, 2012.
not a full, no.
Yeah.
He also reviewed our sales to date and said sometimes the market will fix itself and we're going the opposite direction. So we're just gonna be worse this year.
I think there was some consideration with COVID that some things might have been askew,
Fixing
which is
itself.
why you want to give it a year to see if it corrected, and it did not.
It's not, yeah. Okay.
Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 18, discussion and possible action, request from Choose to Reuse for a $174 donation to reimburse expenses related to painting and supplies needed of a new storage container at the transfer site.
We would take this from our canned funds. Again, that's not levy dollars, that's from donations of cans.
Motion to approve the $174 donation.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 19, discussion and possible action, approval of request from Visit Rome, Wisconsin, to waive the fees for rental of the Rome Town Center Gazebo on June 22nd, 2021, from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. for a Board of Directors meeting, and August 7th, 2021, from 3 p.m. to 10 p.m. for a pop-up concert to benefit Rome Town Center Park.
Make a motion to approve Visit Rome's request for waiver of rental fees.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Number 20, discussion and possible action, approval of request from Draft to waive the fees for rental of the Rome Town Center Gazebo on June 25th, 2021, from 5:30 to 8 p.m.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Dates and items for future agenda meetings. Number 22, next agenda items.
I would just mention two things. Supervisor Barheit had asked previously for a presentation from Sand Valley. That'll be at your July 15th meeting. If there are any questions that you would like me to send ahead of time, so he's prepared for that presentation, please forward them on to me and I can share them in advance just to make sure he's covering topics that you want. I did say a general overview of what's happening and what they foresee coming in growth this year and ongoing, but if there are other items, please let me know. At the next meeting, we will have a series of conditional use withdrawals. So all of our short-term rentals are conditional use permits. If a conditional use permit is not used within 12 months, they are pulled. And so we're to the point now where we've had people that have applied for short-term rentals, have determined for any number of reasons they don't want to be a short-term rental anymore. We need to pull back those conditional use permits so they don't exist. So you'll have a series of addresses, and that's what they'll be. That's why we're pulling that conditional use permit. You'll see that on the next agenda.
Do we also have conditional use permits that haven't generated any tax revenue yet?
What do you mean by tax revenue?
Well, they haven't paid any room fees to us.
So they would have to submit their quarterly report. I don't know of anybody that hasn't. The other piece of that now is with the platform provider. The check usually doesn't come from them. It comes from the platform provider. So we only get the report. and then we have to just match up to see if we're getting a similar amount to what they've reported. I will say our room tax numbers the dollar amount has gone up since it's been provided through a platform provider. We have seen an increase in that number.
Yeah, yeah. But Sand Valley also contributes still the major portion of that.
Yes, because they're also the major portion of rooms. I mean, we have 42 short-term rentals, but they have 108 rooms.
Right.
Yeah.
Number 23, next meeting date and time?
July 1st, 5 PM. Is that still okay with everyone with the holiday right after that?
I'm good. Fine. Sounds good. Can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned.